Our political correspondent Catherine McGrath spoke with Afghanistan's ambassador to Australia, Nasir Andisha, in Canberra.
Ambassador Andisha, welcome to Newsline.
Thank you very much.
Prime Minister Julia Gillard announced Australia's plans today and also said that this is a war with an end. Is that the case for the people of Afghanistan?
Yes, people of Afghanistan, they hope and they aspire that this war will end as soon as possible. And for that, we are doing everything possible to end this war, be it in terms of training our national security forces to be able to defend our population. And on the other hand, reaching out to the reconcilable elements of insurgency and reconciling even among ourselves. So for that matter, we want to see this war end, and we want to see this war end as soon as possible.
The timetable outlined by Australia indicates withdrawal possibly by 2013. How clear-cut is that for you?
I think this is nothing new. It's part of the transition agreement in Lisbon that we had, that the international security forces will gradually transition responsibilities to the Afghan national security forces. And now it's the time that the Australian forces, part of the larger ISAF mission in Afghanistan, should go through this transition. And eventually, a major part of the Australian forces will get out of Uruzgan, and particularly their mission, their role will change from the combat mission into a training mission, which, as Prime Minister mentioned, will take another 18 months for that to happen. But that was also clear that there is a role for the Australians, both military and civilian, beyond that 18 months, and will be on 2014.
We need to talk about some of the military difficulties down there that have happened with the training. The Australians are training up a brigade of around 2,000 to 2,500, but they haven't yet been able to train a full brigade and have them out operating in the field. Why will that be easier once the Australians have gone or scaled back?
Training is a continuous process. It's not that you finish with this Kandak and that's it, it's finished. They go and fight, because the training should be should continue, and training should continue with different focuses. Because one thing which is a source of concern for our security forces, and to that matter for our people, is that yes, our army and our police are capable, and we are proud of that. And the operations in Kabul yesterday proved that even the Afghan National Police was able to take out 36 terrorists in a matter of 16 hours, which was the highest efficiency rate. But then they were confident that they have some backup. They're confident that there are some helicopters. If they need, they will call. They're confident that there are some medical evacuation teams that, if needed, they will come in and they will support them. So the same thing will apply in Uruzgan itself. That yes, training might finish for the 4 brigade elements who will be engaged in combat, but training for the let's say for the medical teams, training for helicopter team, training for communication, intelligence, surveillance will be a continuous project, and that's what Prime Minister said is giving us an assurance and confidence that the remaining Australian forces will be engaged in this training, and we will see them backing our forces at least till another good 2 years, that they should be fully confident that we will not be overpowered by Taliban.
I'd like to return later on to the attack in Kabul that you just mentioned, but keeping on Uruzgan for a moment, there's 2 issues of trust that we need to discuss. One is from the Afghan side, trust or lack of trust in the ISAF forces, when approximately 37,000 civilians have been killed since 2001. From the Australian side and the ISAF forces, trust from the Afghan National Army and Police they are training, given the 3 attacks on the Australian side. As the ambassador to Afghanistan, how do you feel about those 2 issues?
We have, let's first admit that we have made mistakes in the past, and probably one of the major mistakes that we did was these civilian casualties. Yes, we probably our military forces will say that we did everything possible to avoid this, but these civilian casualties has really cost us a lot. And you had rightly framed that question, that probably it have kind of 2 sides of effects. what Taliban claimed yesterday, which is just a claim, it's a hollow claim that, because the 70 Afghan children and women were killed in Kandahar and we have these operations. But definitely it has its own impact, among the general population. But when it comes to the matter of trust between our two security forces, Australians and Afghan, that trust have been there for past, 5-6 years that the mission is seriously
tested.
It has been tested, exactly, it has been tested, and it might be tested in future too, because that's a strategy for the enemy that they want, because they know that the mission will change from combat into training, and the easiest way to disturb this mission, because there are strategic thinkers behind the Taliban's strategies, which really make me and make other people think that are they truly Taliban who are making these sophisticated, policies, or they are some other people, which is a different question. But they understand that, one way that they can damage this training mission, which is probably the most important mission that we might have in future, is to create distrust among our two forces, which they have not been successful. So we are taking all the measures possible, on the Australian side as well as on the Afghan side, being the vetting process, being, even going to the measures like your forces should be always, armed. It's unfortunate, but because those 2-3 people that they want to do this, infiltrators or whatever the case might be, they do not represent the 3,500 4 brigades that you have trained. How to address the public opinion if cases like this happen? I mean, this is a very difficult question. It's a very difficult thing for me to tell people, Australian people, that why someone that you have trained turned and killed one of his mates.
Ambassador, at the upcoming international discussions in Chicago, one of the things on the agenda is possible cuts to the defence forces in Afghanistan. Possibly back to around 250,000. Now the cost of that is even around $4 billion, of which Afghanistan can afford about 1.5. So it could be cut even further. What is the impact going to be if that happens?
I think there have been some talks about this, a reduction in the Afghan security forces by a number of maybe 120,000, bringing it back to the level that you mentioned from the current 352,000. There are some talks going on, but these talks are structured in a way that there are some assumptions that by end of 2015 we will see a degraded and a weak insurgency, and we will see a big chunk of this insurgency joining the peace and reconciliation process, and then the withdrawal of international forces will be itself, a justification for some people to come and join the peace process. So these are some of the assumptions that if we have these things on the ground, we might reduce the number. But that number will not be reduced. That's unrealistic, that we expect that because we are leaving in 2014, there will be less fighting because we are leaving. A lot of insurgents will come and join the government. I mean, that's probably a little bit too idealistic to think this. And because of this, the Afghan government, and especially our national security authorities in Afghanistan, are pushing to sustain this number that we have well up to 2016, and then looking at the situation, will slowly and gradually release some of these people. But at the same time, we have to find alternative employment for them, because leaving 120,000 trained soldiers in the market, if I may say, is a recipe for disaster. They can be recruited, and the people that we have trained will fight us back.
Obviously, the situation in Kabul on a daily basis is still dangerous and unpredictable. Is the enemy Taliban? Is it the Haqqani network? Is it a combination of both? What is the next 6 to 12 months going to bring as the soldiers are drawn down?
The attack in Kabul was a real shock for people in Kabul itself for different reasons, and one of them was that because Kabul have been mostly peaceful in the past 6 to 9 months, we have not seen any major attack at this scale, and people were going through a peaceful winter with a lot of blessing snow. But this will tell us that the Taliban, the enemy, particularly the Haqqani group, which is now there's indication that that this was the Haqqani group work, which we know that they are based in Waziristan and Pakistan, and they wanted to continue with this kind of spectacular attacks. It will tell us that we have to really work with the international community to start our operation in the eastern Afghanistan, where these people are based and enabled, and for our intelligence forces to put their acts together and to really do everything possible to prevent this kind of attack. But this is a war, and since we are going through transition, since this summer has started, the enemy might do everything possible to show that they are there and they have that strength to penetrate Kabul.
Ambassador, thanks for joining Newsline.
You're welcome.